sure the internet's working. Right, hello, I am at Harropfold School and I've got Mr Povey, head teacher of the school. I'm going to do a live Q&A, so make sure you post your questions below, and yeah, we'll be answering all your questions maybe for the next half an hour. So just want to have a quick chat. Obviously we've just seen this is the morning after the second episode of Educating Greater Manchester, and what has the reaction been like for you?
It's been brilliant. I mean, to be able to showcase the school's fantastic, and every bit of feedback we've seen pretty much in the main has been brilliant, and people talking really positively about our kids, which is just fantastic. People praising the staff for the work that they do, and our staff do a brilliant job every single day when they come into Harrop. So yeah, it's been just so good for the school, and it's a really exciting time, and you can almost feel the buzz around the school as you walk around it with the kids excited for what people are saying about the school that they go to. And
were you ever reluctant to do it? Because obviously, as with all schools, there are problems, there's issues. I mean, did you ever think, oh, maybe we don't really want to be putting this out?
Yeah, I think whenever you make a decision like that, you've got to look at the pros and cons of it, and you've got to say, right, what's going to be good about it, what's going to be a challenge about it. But I think if you do something like that, you've got to be confident as well, and we're extremely confident of our kids. They come in, they're brilliant every day. They'll make you laugh, they'll infuriate you, they'll make you cry, and the staff will sometimes do the same. But they are utterly brilliant, and when we sat back, I suppose, and reflected on it, we thought, no, we've really got something here, we should put it out there. And a story actually, when we were thinking of doing it, we get lots of visitors to come into the school, we're very proud of it, so we might have Ian Hopkins, the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, come in and we showcase the school, and the kids are used to that now because we want to invite people in and we want them to be proud of themselves. And there was a Year 9 girl came up to me and said, you know, we're thinking about doing this TV show, sir. And I was like, yeah, I know about that. And she said, well, you know, you're always bringing these people in all the time, and they're kind of coming into the school, and you're celebrating the school. Well, we've got an opportunity to put ourselves on TV, so if you're always doing that, why don't we do this TV show?
Why don't we just do it?
And she had me bang to rights, of course. So at that point, we were thinking, yeah, but there were times when we had to consider it, and you've got to make sure it's the right decision.
I know you were saying that you've got like amazing pupils and things, and like we've only seen 2 episodes, and the characters and the pupils are just amazing. I think people are just falling in love, especially little Rani and Jack.
Gotta love them. Yeah.
It's just such a. It just shows you the whole aspect of the school and what it's all about, I guess. But we'll have a look now, see if we've got any questions.
Okay.
So Sandra just basically said, I've not watched it yet, but loved the first episode, so thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you for that,
Let's
Sandra.
see if we can get some more questions coming in. I'm trying to have a scroll through now.
They're quite interesting, actually, Jack and Rani's characters, because a lot of people have kind of stopped me and said, is Jack really like that all the time? And I'm like, that is Jack. He's 12 years old, he's captain of the Lancashire cricket team. The kid has just bursting with energy, and Rani, you know, what a cracking lad he is, and I think he teaches us all a lesson in kind of that idea of resilience and keeping going. Yeah. And he was stopped at the supermarket recently for someone to take a photo. He's been asked for autographs as well, so it's brilliant. Harrop on the telly, and the kids are getting famous.
God, I would have to, and this is only 2 episodes, so there's going to be 8 episodes total.
8 one-hour episodes, yeah, so it goes into October. Nearly as long as a run as X Factor, but not quite.
Almost. So just if you've just tuned in, basically we're going to be doing a live Q&A with Mr Povey from the school. So if you've got any questions, make sure you post them below. We'll be asking them all in the next maybe 25 minutes. So yeah, just keep them posted. Another question that I've got for you is, do you feel as though you wanted to be able to put Salford on the map in a different way? Because I mean, you know, the way that people maybe think about it now is not necessarily in the best light. Is that something that you thought about and, you know, contemplate before you actually did the show? Yeah,
absolutely. Worked in Salford now for 12 years, and Salford is very different from anywhere I've ever been before, and I mean that's different in a good way. The people here will get behind you. The people here will support you when they believe in you, but the people in here will speak their mind too. So when I first came, I was surprised at how people would just tell you as it is. But that wasn't particularly a negative. That was just, look, this is how things are, but we're going to work together. And I know that the people talk about that Salford spirit. I think it's palpable in Salford. I think there's something brilliant happening in this city. So working in Salford's been amazing. And then I suppose when we had the opportunity not just to talk about Salford but to talk about Little Hulton, because I'm extremely passionate, just as I'm about Salford, about this area of Salford. And I think sometimes Little Hulton gets forgotten. It gets seen, it's on the outskirts of Salford, and it is. And people think sometimes it's Bolton because it's literally on the outskirts of Bolton, but it's not, it's Salford. So as well as being proud of working in Salford, really wanted to make sure that people knew we were proud of Little Hulton and what that stands for. And yes, there have been negative articles, and we know that the negatives sell, and they sell newspapers and whatever, but I think there's so many good things that are happening in Little Hulton. I love the place. There's so many good things happening in Salford. Love that place. So huge opportunity for us to do that, as well as the school, because you're showcasing a school, but this is the first time on an Educating we've actually gone out of the school gates and we've gone into the community and said, just look at these brilliant people who are supporting the kids as they're going through the challenges as well, because obviously school is part of it, but it's 24/7 for those parents at home.
And then also you touched on earlier on, basically parts of the programme, it's not all kind of sweetness and light. There are hard-hitting issues. You've got self-harm, there's teenage pregnancy. Is that something that you felt like you wanted to include into, because I mean you could have easily just said, you know what, we don't really want to put this into the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you can show a school authentically if you're not going to show the hard edges of it. And we were absolutely passionate that our kids are brilliant, but they will go through challenges. I mean, we all went through challenges at school. Between the age of 11 and 16, they're important years, and things are going to happen in your life, and showcasing how young people deal with it, I think, is really important, so that people know what's happening in school. And if you're a young person, for example, who's potentially thinking about self-harming, or who has self-harm but might be too embarrassed to tell somebody about it, it's actually breaking some of those stigmas down. And I won't want to ruin any future episodes, but there's a lot more of that kind of stuff to come, which really will kind of, I think, lift the lid on some issues that we do deal with in schools, and I think we deal with it really well here.
Perfect. So let's have a quick look at some of the questions. So Amanda Crompton's asked about, sorry, you can see my finger on that side, let me just read it. Uniform is in the headlines at the moment. I think it's to do with the fact that some schools are saying you have to pay X amount of price for a specific school uniform with a logo, and they're not being told that they can wear like a Tesco or an Asda or a supermarket version. Do you have an opinion on that? Yeah,
I mean, we work very closely with the local uniform suppliers, and we get the prices as low as we can, and I don't think there's much difference between any of them at the moment, so they drive the prices down as low as possible so that we can buy the uniforms. But I think uniforms are key. I very often get asked about are uniforms important? They don't have them over in America, and I think they are very important, and it was one of the first things we worked on when we came to the school, when it's had some of its challenges in the past. Get the uniform right, because it's one of those standards about someone's self-worth and self-respect. You've got to look after the way that you put yourself across, and that's an important life lesson.
Yeah. Good answer. So one of the, we've got Katie Palmer says, are Jack and Ronnie enjoying Year 8 together? And when they drew on the van, did you actually want to laugh? That was, if you've not seen that moment, basically, do you want to explain what happened?
Yes, there was a dirty van on our playground, and the students did probably what you'd expect dirty people to do with a dirty van, and write things and draw things that they perhaps shouldn't on the back of that van. I mean, obviously, when you go out there, when you're working in a school or anybody's doing their job, you're focused on the job you've got to do, and that's about standards and it's about discipline, but it's about being human as well. So when I saw that, it wasn't alarming, but I thought, I'm going to have to deal with this, because whilst, yes, we might see the funny side of it, we've got to think about things like the reputation of the school, and also making the young people aware that this is their school, and therefore it's their reputation, and if they're going to have somebody walk out of that school and that's going to be on the back of a van as it leaves our school, it ain't good for us. And also for the van driver who will see it, he'll be like going, that school down there, and it only takes a couple of people out in the community to say something negative. So yes, you can see the funny side of it, and I would always say that with the students as well, because it's about building relationships. I'd always say to them, look, you've got to understand that whilst we will do that kind of thing, and I might have done that kind of thing when I was younger, understand the knock-on impact of that. The other thing people ask me about, which is connected to the van, is why the kids came up to my office. Because a lot of people are like, you just stood there and said, get up to my office. Like, who rounded the kids up? And, you know, genuinely, nobody rounded the kids up. We just said to them, if you've done that, you need to go up to my office. And I think that's something we've worked on, you know, really, really hard as a staff, and particularly with the students, to say, look, if you've done something wrong, the best thing you can do is own up to it, and then we can deal with the issue. And obviously, if we'd have found that, you know, somebody hadn't, or none of the kids handed them in, then it's going to be a different conversation on the end of it.
That's a testament to the school and how you've, and the whole team have managed to improve it and raise the standards of it, I guess. That,
absolutely.
That they actually came to do that.
Yeah, we're really proud of that, really proud.
So Simon Binns, who, you know Simon?
No, I don't know Simon, but I can well imagine this question.
Yeah, he said, what sort of pupil were you at school?
Okay. I wasn't the best student when I was at school.
Academically or behaviour?
Both.
Oh, really?
Both. Yeah, I didn't find school particularly easy, Simon, I really didn't. And I certainly won't shy away from saying that. I will certainly tell the kids that as well, because when some of them have done something wrong, they might look at me, and sometimes, I mean, we've all been through school, haven't we? So we'll look at a teacher and think that a teacher sleeps in the filing cabinet in the room, and they kind of get put in the filing cabinet at the end of the day and pulled out in the morning, and I think that's what we think about school, but we've got to think about the fact that they are human beings, so we always try and be as human as possible so the kids can see that and they can relate to it. And for me, I will tell the kids I wasn't always the best behaved and I made some wrong choices, but hopefully by sharing, you know, that it didn't do me any favours, I think can help them. So I use it every now and again with certain types of students. But yeah, I didn't find school that easy, but I worked hard.
But I guess that makes you a better head teacher, because then you can see it from that side for kids that are struggling, rather than someone that's just flown through school and like with no problems.
Yeah, I think you can. I don't think it would make you better. I think it would make you just see things differently. So, for example, somebody who's been a very high achieving student at school that becomes a head teacher would understand those types of students. I think the trick for all head teachers is to try and be able to relate to all students that come in as best you can. But obviously, you know, for Harrop, it's great for me to be able to deal with some of those challenging kids as well, because yeah, I have done those things. I have been there. I may in the past have drawn on the back of a van or something similar to that. So again, but I always think it's good for the kids to see as a human and say, look, I might have done it. So I understand that, but let's think about some of the issues that you might have by doing that.
Okay. Deanne Shaw said, what are your views on inclusion on kids with special educational needs, as Harropfold appear to do it well?
Yeah, no, thanks Deanne. I know Deanne. It's all about inclusion. I think every young person, whatever their needs, should be able to come into school and be able to interact and become part of that team. And I think that is crucial. And I think at schools that is always going to be a challenge. And mainstream schools are mainstream, so you're kind of picking up the vast majority of kids. But we've got to work hard, and we've got to continue to work hard to make every young person that comes here feel valued, feel part of the team, and feel exactly the same as everybody else. And whilst we've got to do that as staff, we've got to work with the young people to do that as well, because obviously school, yes, is about exams, but what about the personal development and the social development, getting them ready to be good citizens out there? And we need as much as we can to focus with the students on making sure they can go out and be good citizens when they leave here. Inclusion is a major part of that, and I think we need a bit more of it in society. Society's changing, and therefore we need to be not just inclusive in schools of people with different needs, because we've all got needs. It doesn't matter whether you're the high-flying student that's straight A's, they've got needs.
Yeah.
And we want to be really clear on that, as some other students who might have a physical disability, or some other students that might have some, you know, issues with mental health. Everybody's got needs. We've got to cater for those needs as best we can. Now, sometimes people go outside the mainstream and they might need specialist care, and we'll be the first to help them to find that specialist care. But in the main, you've got to look after your kids that come in, and there's no greater privilege than a parent handing their child over to you and saying, please look after my child in that day, and that is something we take very seriously.
Yeah. Callum Townsend said, what made you go into the teaching profession?
I did struggle at school, Callum, so I'm really glad you've asked that question, because I didn't find school easy, and I wasn't always the best behaved, but there were teachers there who supported me, and by the fact that I had those teachers supporting me, that was something I reflected on and thought maybe I could go in and do that for somebody else.
And that was the main reason, you just wanted to help?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't find school easy, so it was some really inspiring teachers and some inspiring people that said to me, no, come on, you can do it. Because some people had said, look, you won't be able to do that, you'll never be able to achieve that, so why don't you think about doing that? And then others were saying, no, come on, you can do this if you're willing to work hard and roll your sleeves up and put the graft in. So from that, I was like, you know what, maybe I should go in and maybe I should do that too. And I was always coaching sport as well, and I enjoyed, helping people develop and grow. And then
so I guess from that age, they are really formative years, and if someone's telling you at that point, oh, you can't do that, then that's something that sticks with you and shapes the rest of your life, I guess, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So it's so important and crucial.
Yeah, and we've got to get it right. We've got to get it right, otherwise kids get held back.
Yeah. So Sam Turner has asked, what advice would you give to a new teacher?
That's a very good question. My best piece of advice would be about building relationships. I think the world is built on relationships. It doesn't matter which business you go into, but it's about getting the best relationship with young people. And I know what it's like when I was teacher training. I kind of had this whole amount of information I wanted to kind of force into the kids' heads, and I was like, you're going to come in and learn whatever happens here. But in actual fact, it was about building relationships, getting to know the kids, getting them to a place where they want to learn, which might sound a little bit superficial, but you've got to have a relationship which says, we want this young person to learn, we want them to improve, we want them to get better. And once the young person knows that and knows those intentions, then you're onto a winner. I spend a lot of time talking to kids about what they did at the weekend and which football team they support, or were they playing sport at the weekend. It's building those relationships with kids, and once you've got a kid, then they will do anything for you.
Seeing it as like you're saying, it as a relationship, as being people rather than you being a head teacher and pupil. It's about being people.
Yeah, and I'm be out every day. So when we finish the interview, I'll be out around the school building, talking to the kids, catching up with them. It's a really important part of it.
David Johnston says, what do you make of the new GCSE's grading system?
Well, it depends which one. Do you mean the letters or do you mean the numbers? Because this year's just kept being a huge mishmash of it all. I mean, as long as it can measure kids, I've not got a problem with that. I probably have more of an issue with the new way GCSEs are structured, and the fact that it's penultimate exams, or ultimate exams, should I say, so it comes right at the end of year 11, everything's waiting on that exam, so coursework's being reduced. And I think we've got an education system that caters really well for high achieving kids, but I'm not sure whether it's an education system that caters for all kids. And going back to Deanne's point about inclusion, I do have a bit of an issue with that.
See if we've got any more questions. So if you just joined us, we're doing a live Q&A, so if you've got any questions, then post them below. I can't see any others. Let's have a quick look. It's hard to see them. We're doing it on a phone, so it's really hard to kind of scroll through them. So if you've got them, please make sure you are posting them.
There's one about mobile phones there, is there? Why the student, is that?
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Oh
yeah, why are pupils allowed their mobile phones in school?
Is it mobile phones in school? That is a question we talked about with the whole staff, Stuart, because we often get asked that question. It's different, a lot of schools confiscate them when they come in. We, as a whole staff, had a number of conversations about this to say, okay, what are we here to do as a school? And if we're here as a school to prepare kids for life, then we've got to look at the issues of mobile phones seriously and sensibly. It's very easy to ban a mobile phone and say, that's it, get it out of the way, and it's quick and it's easy and it's effective. But if those kids are going to be using a mobile phone or mobile technology when they leave school, which, let's face it, everybody is, then maybe we need to rethink our policy. which is what we did. So in every classroom there's either a red sign or a green sign with a mobile phone on it. So if mobiles are allowed for a learning purpose in the lesson, there's a green sign. If it's not, it's a red sign, and therefore they're not allowed out. And by and large, young people do stick to that. But a lot of them use them for, photography.
Yeah.
If they're photography students, photographing art, a lot of them have the timetables on it. A lot of them use them for Google Translate. They used a lot down in science as well. They used in maths for calculating, even though it's not ideal. In certain subjects where they want to be creative, they're allowed to put music on occasionally if they're doing a piece of work. So there's lots of ways you can use it as a learning tool. It's much more difficult to monitor and manage that. That's not an easy thing to do, but we certainly try hard to make sure we get it right.
Let's see what this one says. So Emma Gill, who is our family writer at the MEN, so she's basically said, I went to high school in Salford and always feel people have a bad impression of the place. Oh, you can't see the end of the...
But I can certainly comment on that because I think people do have a bad impression of Salford.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand it. I can't see it at all. I mean, when I come to Salford, I see people, as I said before, that will call it straight, but they will actually get down to hard work. I don't see anything other than that, and I think that is a brilliant thing. But we all know that we're more likely to remember a negative. So if you're in a conversation with someone, they might say 8 nice things to you, but if they say that one thing that's a negative, you walk away and think about that one thing that they said to you that kind of got to you. So I think that's probably why Salford might have some of that, and it has been in the press for some of the wrong reasons. We're hoping the TV show is an opportunity to put it in the press for the right reasons.
And did you ever think that the show might affect pupils' grades and things negatively?
Yeah, we had to really weigh that up because you wouldn't do this if it was going to put pressure on the staff or pressure on the kids that wasn't going to be a benefit.
Yeah.
Some pressure is good actually, because it was interesting when you do put the cameras in, kind of everybody's a little bit smarter and everybody's on the game, and that was a useful thing. I suppose it's a bit like having an inspection team here for the best part of a year. So there are some benefits to it, but if that was going to go over a threshold and it was going to mean it was going to be negative or it was going to be an issue, then we would never have done it. But it was about talking to the kids and saying, is this going to negatively impact on you? Is it going to positively impact on you? And we felt it was overwhelmingly stacked in the positive. And you're never going to do anything in life without some risk.
No. And so the cameras were here for about a year? Yeah,
they were over a year. They were here for. Yeah, so they filmed various parts over a 12-month period. So it was quite an undertaking.
And did you? Cause obviously when people go into Big Brother and things like that, they say, you get used to the cameras, or people say, actually, no, you're aware of them all the time. Did you forget that they were there?
Yeah, I think you have to, because there were that many of them. I think there was up to 100 cameras fixed around the building. There were 3 in this office we're in now. One was just behind you there. So it was crazy, to be honest. So from our perspective, we forgot about them pretty quickly. But we've also got CCTV here, so it's not that much different from CCTV in all honesty.
Apart from this is going to be shown to... How many viewers did you say it's had?
By the way, over 2.5 million.
2.5 million viewers.
Just episode 1 that we know about at the moment. Obviously, they'll get more on demand and stuff.
That is a lot. So we'll have to do a couple more questions. I'm a student drama teacher. What do you think to the government's view on pulling creative arts from the national curriculum?
Yeah, I don't think it's right. Is probably my short answer to that. I've got a huge belief in that all subjects are important, and that's the idea of having a broad and balanced curriculum that we talk about. I think it's a real disappointment when we live in a world that seems to have a thirst for creativity and innovation and people to be resilient and think differently, and it's quite hard to find some of that in some subjects that are becoming the ones that are controlling school statistics. So it's a real shame is what I'd say, and I think Ken Robinson's got a great article and it's a great TED talk he does on this, where he talks about, I think it's entitled Schools Are Killing Creativity, and it's had millions of views, and I think he makes some very valid points in that talk.
And talking about creativity, we'll just go on very briefly to the next episode. Can you tell us briefly about what happens?
Okay, I can't say too much, but you're going to meet 2 people, Callum and Mitchell, very, very different students to each other, very different from a lot of students in many ways, and it follows their journey through school.
Fantastic. So I think that is pretty much going to be the live Q&A wrapped up. So we're going to be posting this video onto the Facebook page. So if you did miss it, then you can watch the whole thing again later on. So just thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Katie.
It's really nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.